The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey everyone, good afternoon, and welcome to our little presentation for NCRA mentoring. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what NCRA has for going on with mentoring. We have a couple of different paths that we're taking right now. We just have a lot of requests from people, so I'll get going. This is the members of our mentoring committee, and we have people who have been with us since actually the very beginning when we started out as a task force. We also have some state representatives, and these are people who work with mentoring at their state level, and they have signed on as representatives with the national committee so that we can exchange information and best practices and things like that. So if you do, by any chance, are involved in your state organization and you want to represent mentoring at the national committee, let us know, and I'd be glad to get you on the committee. Our board of directors representative is Karen Mason, and we are under the auspices of the professional development director. Okay, so this is just some information that we basically put together when we started the program. These are kind of structured representations and definitions of what a mentoring is. Just basically, it's someone who's got experience helping somebody who doesn't have experience. Usually it involves a lot of questions. And the mentor usually has insight, whatever the mentee is interested in. It doesn't take a lot of experience and age and wisdom to become a mentor, because if you have gone through something, for instance, the CTR exam, or first time in a registry, something like that, you have something to offer people who are just starting out. And a lot of the people who come to the NCRA mentoring program to request a mentor are people who are usually in programs, and they have questions about their courses or their new CTRs, that sort of thing. Okay, so really don't underestimate yourself, because you do have information that somebody can use. So we do know that mentoring means there's a collaborative relationship. Mentors are usually very supportive when they can be, and my experience with mentoring is that I get as much from mentoring as the person who's being mentored, so it helps me a lot as well, and I always learn something. We do not, for the NCRA mentoring program anyway, use mentors to get a job. We don't use mentors for training, coaching, or teaching. And we certainly don't use mentors for therapy. This is something that we may run up against. I mean, you know, everybody has personal problems, etc., but I wouldn't ask anyone to come to me with a personal problem, because I got enough of my own. So our mentoring program at NCRA is open to everyone. There's a registration process online, and you are matched by the committee. And there's a contract with a mentee, and that's basically to set your boundaries. You can earn time for CE credit. You can earn up to 3 CEs per year. You get 1 CE for every 5 hours of mentoring. We have a number of resources online, and we do have sessions for the mentors at the annual conference as well, and we'll probably be doing another roundtable this year. And as I mentioned before, we have the state partners who liaison with us so that we can share ideas with the states. This is basically the information from the web page. And so we have, as you see, there's some FAQs for mentors, so give you a lot of good information. The online mentor info form, and that's basically what you fill out and you send it in, and that's how you sign up. There's a mentoring toolkit. For instance, if you are interested in having mentoring at your state association, we have a toolkit with some tips and techniques and some materials that you can start with. There's a mentor activity log, and people who are interested in earning CEs for their mentoring, not everybody does, but they will usually keep track of the mentoring activities that they do with their mentees, so that they can keep track of their hours. And then at the end of the year, or around this time of the year, before you submit your reporting CEs, I would ask people to, if they are interested in getting CEs, to send me the information from their logs and how many hours that they've done, and I send them a certificate so they have documentation to submit for their reporting. We also have a mentoring agreement form. As I mentioned, this is just something to set some boundaries. Not everybody uses it. Not everybody needs it. I mean, when you get to know someone who you're mentoring, you'll know if they need boundaries or not. And that's usually, you set a time for mentoring, like I'm going to work with you for 1 month and we'll see how it works out. And then we also have a number of mentoring presentations up on the website that we have done in the past to help people out and build some confidence. Not everybody is good at putting themselves out there, but we know that you can do it. So, okay. So right now we have mentoring statistics. We have 112 registered mentors. Not everybody can mentor all the time, and some people can take on more than others. And it's okay to say, gosh, I'll send I'll get a request for a mentee, and then I'll go to the list and I'll put in their information in my spreadsheet. And then I'll go to the list of mentors and I'll look and see who, first off, who's available. That means that if I have somebody who has not mentored anyone in, say, 3-4 months, I might send them, put them, yeah, they're definitely a possible. And then I'll look over to see what kind of expertise they offer and what kinds of things they want to mentor for. For instance, I might have someone who is a student and they have questions about their courses, and they want to have someone that they can answer, who can answer questions for them. I'll look over to see what the mentor's expertise, and I might have somebody who says, I've been in the field for 25 years. I'm in a management position, and my skills are primarily in the management realm. That's not a good person to work with a student. So I'll look for someone else who says, I want to work with a student, or I can help with CTR prep, things like that. So that's how we match people up. Like I said, not all the mentor requests are the same. And I think about 30% of them actually turn out to be relationships. I've met some people at our annual conferences who have been mentors, and they make arrangements to meet their mentees at the annual conference, and or they invite their mentees into their facility if they are able to do that and they're in the same geographical area, which sometimes happens. But most people ask for, I just, like I said before, I'm taking courses and I need someone to answer my questions. Another example I have is, I'm a new CTR, I'm the only one here, and I don't have anyone that can answer my questions, and I need someone that I can send an email to during the day who can help me out. That's another one that I've gotten. Another one is, I'm new on the job. There are other CTRs in the facility. However, I don't want my supervisor to think I'm stupid, so I need somebody who can answer my questions, and it'll go like that. So all kinds of different circumstances. I also get a lot of questions or emails from people who just want information. I'm thinking of changing careers, and how do I become a mentor? For questions like that, I have a cut and paste stuff and some information and links that I can send them, and I usually take care of those myself, so that a lot of times someone will hear about becoming a CTR or a registrar, and they will think it's a really cool idea because you can work at home, blah, 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 and everybody thinks that's wonderful to be able to work at home. And so they'll get really excited about it, and they'll put in for request a mentor to answer questions for them, and then the mentor will call them and they'll say, oh, well, I've been thinking about it, I'm really not interested. So I'm trying to avoid situations like that. So if someone calls me or sends in a request and says, I'm thinking of changing careers, and I heard this is a really good place, real good field to get into, and that CTRs are really in demand, and I want to learn something about it, I'll send them information, and the information about the education that they need. And there's a lot of people who come from, for instance, HIM, or they've been transcriptionists, and they will say, I've been a medical transcriptionist for 25 years, and I want to do this, and They get a little disappointed when they hear that they have to have an associate degree because they didn't have to have an associate degree when they started, and so they might get a little discouraged. But we do have all online programs, so it's really not hard to get the education these days, and it really doesn't matter how old you are. So I would like you all to become mentors, and if anybody has questions, send them in, okay? Or if you'd like to call and talk to me, I'd be glad to talk with you about that. Something else I wanted to tell you about, another program that we've got going, we call them Independent Clinical Advisors, and these are people who have volunteered to work with candidates for the exam who need to have their clinical practicum activities done, but they're having a real problem finding a facility where they can do it. And so we have come up with a number of activities that have been approved by the Formal Education Program Review Committee, where people can work with a clinical advisor and get some of these activities accomplished and completed working virtually. And as I mentioned, the facilities for the clinical practicum students are getting harder and harder to find for a number of reasons. Legal, because some of these large corporations are buying up the smaller ones and they have these huge legal departments. HIPAA concerns always. Some facilities will allow a student to come in and perhaps sit in on a tumor board or talk about follow-up and case finding and things like that, but they really don't want to let the students in to use the database because of, HIPAA. One of the reasons that they may request the student to have professional liability insurance, which isn't always something that a student can afford. So the other issue that we've been running into is that more and more people are working remotely. And so there aren't as many registrars in the facilities as there used to be. So it's almost unheard of these days for anyone to be trained on the job anymore, or to even allow a student to come in and shadow someone. Some places have programs for interns, others don't. Some facilities will bring in students as volunteers because there's less paperwork. But usually everyone has to have all the immunizations and the background checks and things like that. So we have these volunteers who have decided that this is something that they like to do. These are people who want to do a little bit more than just mentoring. It's something it's very definite and it's much more structured. And they will really help people get prepared for the exam. And they will also be able to work with them virtually through the SEER Educate website, and I'll be glad to tell you about that. So we have available right now abstracting. That is through the SEER Educate website, through the applications section. And basically what an ICA will do is assign different cases. So the student, the ICA person will have an account at SEER Educate. They can request manager status, which SEER Educate is willing to give someone who is working with a student, mentoring, or a teacher, for instance. Also, some of the CTRs that I've worked with who do training of their own on the job have used SEER Educate to help train their registrars and help them with if they're having issues with certain aspects of their job. It's a really good site. If you haven't been there, I suggest you try it. So the SEER Educate website will have a manager, one of our advisors. The manager will affiliate or have the student affiliate with them, and that means that the ICA can assign certain activities to the exam candidate, and then they can go in on the back end and they can check their work. And then basically what they'll do is they'll get together and they'll discuss if the candidate is having a problem in a certain area and how can I help you, that kind of thing. There's a case finding module also. This is a case finding module that was put together originally by NPCR, and it's been on the CDC website forever. They are closing it down. They are giving it to SEER Educate. NCRA Educate has done a lot to expand what they have, and they're going to be launching it this week or next, and they're going to have 100 cases there. So it's a great tool for people for their case finding, because right now they have to have 9 hours of case finding for their clinical practicum requirement. And HIPAA, we put together a course. It takes probably 3 or 4 hours. I have a link to the course. It's on our Center for Cancer Registry Education. It is not for the public. It's only for people who are interested in getting the hours or doing some training. And a candidate will complete all the work, complete the final exam, score 80%, they'll get a little certificate to share with their advisor to confirm that they have actually completed the activity. And this is important in case, whoever is going to be signing their application for their experience when they apply for the exam, it's necessary that they have all the documentation. We're working on a course on quality assurance, and that'll be coming soon. So I'm always looking for people to help me with these things. So if anybody has any ideas, let me know. So the abstracting online, as I mentioned, is at the NCRA Educate website. And I would definitely encourage you to go over and take a look at it if you haven't been there yet. It has been approved by the Formal Education Program Review Committee, and the students can complete up to 15 abstracts at the NCRA Educate website. So the requirement for the clinical practicum is 30. So we know that we can't do everything online, but at least we can help students get going. They also have a great CTR prep section too. And this is the course that I was telling you about, the HIPAA course that's on the Center for Cancer Registry Education. And the one thing about being an independent clinical advisor is that they have to be comfortable working virtually with students, doing email, messaging, and texts, and online meetings, and in person if possible, and not always possible geographically. People aren't always in the same area when we match them up, but it is important that an ICA be really comfortable doing all the online stuff. And so next, I want you all to become independent clinical advisors, and here's the website where you can find out more information. And you just complete the online form, and it comes, you hit send, and it comes directly over to me. And we look to see who might be a good match for you. So that's about all I have. I wanted someone to come and talk to you a little bit more about mentoring, and but I'm afraid she's not going to make it. So what kind of questions do you have for me? I'd be glad to answer them for you. And so how much experience does one need? How much experience do you need? To do what? To mentor? You don't need any experience to mentor. If you're a CTR, you've got experience, and you're underestimating yourself, because if someone comes up to you and says, I would like to be a registrar. I don't know how to get started. I am really interested in doing this registry operations course, but I have some questions. Can you help me? I'm sure you can help with that kind of those kinds of questions. Otherwise, the experience, when you do apply to be a mentor, there's a question on there that's going to say, what is your expertise? And you can put down, what you're comfortable with. I can answer questions about becoming a registrar. I can answer questions for someone who's just starting in the registry. I'm really good at 8th edition staging. I'm joking. Something like that. So you can ask, you can tell us what kind of mentoring you want to do, and we will try to get you people who aren't going to overtax you or make you feel, underconfident, that's for sure. And someone else says, you missed the beginning, but I'm interested in help grow our profession. Thank you very much. And if you would go over to the mentoring website, which is, actually I can probably take you there, can't I? If I end the show and I can go to over to the NCRA website here, I can take you directly to, under Education, here's the mentoring program. And if you want to become a mentor, this is what you do. And here is the online mentor information form. And that's basically all you have to do is fill it out when it ever pops up. And you start it and answer the questions, and that's all you have to do. And that comes automatically to me. Also, I told you there's some great presentations over here to help you for listening. All you have to do is open it up and click. That's all there is to it. All right, the next question I have, is there a time commitment? That depends on you. And that is something that you would discuss with the person who you are matched with. I know some people who actually use the agreement to set their boundaries and say, this is the amount of time that I can spend with you, and this is when we're going to do it. I have one person who does a lot of mentoring, and she mentors several people all at the same time, and she sets aside her Wednesday evening, and her Wednesday evening she takes questions and phone calls from her mentees. That's one way to do it. You might also just only want to take things via email. And if so, you just limit yourself to, I can take emails only, and I will answer emails on Tuesday and Thursday evenings, something like that. So the time commitment is something that you would work out between you and your mentee. Okay. How many hours per week are required? And as I mentioned before, that's up to you and your mentee, and that's something that you work out with them. Like I said, it's really good to set aside time and say, this is when I'm available. You can send your questions anytime, but this is when I can answer them. If you're doing an email, I don't like to talk on the phone. I don't like to talk, period. So I usually do it via email. I'm really good at answering emails. I'm not really good at answering phone calls. Let's see what else. Are interactions accomplished outside of one's work hours? That depends. I have some people who are supported at work being mentors, and so it's okay for them to attend sessions like these while they're at work. It's okay for them to take emails from their mentees at work, not necessarily telephone calls, but emails. And if that is something, that you can do at work, that's great. I had one person who was new on the job, and she would be working by herself, and she would come up with things during the day and would not have anyone to answer her questions. She could send her, questions into, Cancer Forum, whatever. But she was looking for somebody who could take her phone calls during the day. And I had a mentor who said, I can only take questions during the day while I'm at work, and I can answer work questions. That worked out perfectly. So it really depends. And if you're going to do something like this and you think you might have an opportunity to answer questions at work, something like that, clear it with your supervisors. Make sure it's okay. Can you demonstrate how you would review student casework online? That is on the NCRA Educate website. This is a model that she put together. So she would say, now this is using last year's work. We're still working in 7th edition here. So she would assign cases 3 through 5, bladder or breast or collector lung, at summary stage and the new data items. She would assign cases 3 through 5, same sites, at AJCC 7th edition, and then she would assign all the cases in the site from the MPH rules, and she would consider that to be one abstract. So the student would go into the NCRA Educate website in their account, and they would do the work, and then the ICA person or the mentor would be able to go into their account on the back end to see the work that they did and be able to check it over. The one thing about the NCRA Educate website is that they give you tons of feedback and really good rationale. I don't know if you've ever been there. I really suggest that y'all go over there and take a look at it if you haven't seen it. And basically what I do, this is, for instance, here's the training menu. They have practical application tests. And the practical applications test, here they are. They have case coding. They have the Hemi cases and pH rules. They're just getting ready to put in new stuff up. So they got a bunch of new stuff coming out. For instance, they got the Hemi 2018. So you'll see that, you know, they have different sections here. And it's a test, basically. You go through, I can't do any of this. So they give you a scenario. They tell you where to go, and then you continue. You answer all the questions, blah, blah, blah. So this is something that the ICA or the mentor will be able to go into on the back end to see how the student is doing. And if there's a big problem, of course, the ICA is going to contact the student and say, hey, I noticed you had some problems here. You know, how can I help you with this, blah, 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 okay? So I hope that answers your question, Vijay. Once you become a mentor, do you ever have to renew your mentor status? No. Example, mentor students years apart? No, not necessarily. Sometimes I've had people on the mentor list since we started, which was about 4 years ago. Sometimes you just can't take people. I've had people who say they're even retired and they're still answering questions and taking people. So it's really up to you. You know, if you take some mentors, some mentees, and you think it's really taken too much of your time away from your family or your job, and you would prefer not to, then you just stop. And it's okay. We don't mind. But we know there's a lot of people out there, so any little bit of help that people can, we definitely need people to answer questions and stuff. So you've all been lovely. Thanks so much for joining us today.